My guest tonight is a critically acclaimed writer and director whose new film is called The Smashing Machine. Please welcome the one and only Benny Safdie. New York's own standing ovation for the Ben Safdie.
That is awesome. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah, that's how I feel every day. No, that was amazing. You saw that clip.
Yes.
And it was, people were so in it, they felt the pain of the punch.
Yes.
And the crowd went, ow.
Yes.
And for a second, we all forgot we were watching a movie.
That's amazing. Well, that's what I wanted you to be there. That was the goal, with this movie is put you in the best seat in the house, which is ringside.
Sure.
But it's interesting. If you look at it, you weren't in the ring in that.
No.
Because I very specifically wanted to be outside looking in, because if I was actually there filming it, you would see a camera person if you went into the ring.
Sure.
So which makes sense.
Right. Which is also how every other fight movie
would do it.
Exactly. Has done it.
And so I was like, can I make it so that you're in there without being inside?
Sure.
And then I use the ropes, I use everything to kind of hide some tricks so that when that punch happens, you feel it.
Right. And they definitely felt
I know.
it.
I was excited to hear that reaction.
Yeah.
So.
And you also show a lot of long lens. You shoot.
Yes.
What was your kind of process for mapping out how to shoot this story?
So essentially, I would approach each scene and be like, okay, what if we were here? How would we film this? And with Maceo Bishop, the cinematographer, we would game plan and figure out how the best shots we could get, different angles and all that. And basically, with the long lens, I felt like you can kind of pull an audience in with that, which kind of seems counterproductive. But something about being attached to the character, if you can get close to them, then you kind of want to lean in and get around the ropes and see around things. So.
Well, to my naive, it seems a little counterintuitive, because you figure if you want to get close to the character, you just
get close.
In there. But then you're shooting it as though you're a camera person covering the actual event.
Yes, so it situates you in a perfect POV. Like, okay, I know somebody's there, and they're filming it. So now you're in their head looking at it. And that kind of process puts you in a special place when you watch it.
Well, this is why you are you, because I wouldn't have thought of doing that, and it freaking worked, because I watched the whole film, and it's great.
That's amazing.
And the other thing about this film, obviously, you got to talk about The Rock.
Oh, my God.
And he comes in, and he embodies this character so much, because for me, The Rock is such a familiar figure in pop culture, especially when you get him in wrestling underwear.
Of course. No, it's true.
The way he moves as The Rock, we all in our head, we all know, we've seen it so many times. And in fact, just by his gait, you can recognize him.
Yeah.
In this movie, he changed his gait. He changed.
He changed how he walked. Something that was really difficult was, if you look at pictures of Mark Kerr back in the day, he was a big guy.
Yeah.
Dwayne's a big guy. But Mark was a little bit bigger. And so I had to think.
Is that even possible?
I know. And so I'm thinking, how do I bring this up? To Dwayne.
Just say you're not big enough.
And so I just said, you know what? Exactly. I said, you know what? I said, Dwayne, as we get closer, maybe you could get a little, how do I say it? And I was like, puffier. Bigger.
Sure.
And he's like, oh, okay. He goes, give me 24 hours to process that. And then he's like, I know exactly what you mean. And then he put on 30, 40 pounds of muscle to and because it's not normal muscle. His shoulders are huge, his legs are big, but his waist is tight because he's like a wrestler.
Yeah.
But like a freestyle wrestler, not like the performative wrestling, which is what he would do.
Oh, so he actually changed the way he bulked up for this.
Exactly. So he had to literally you're picking people up and throwing them down. Right. Interesting thing, I said to the real Marker, I wanted him to take me down so that he knew what it felt like. And he's like, I'm not going to do that.
Because you would snap in half.
Yes, I would get destroyed. But the stunt coordinator, Greg Rementer, was like, I'll do it. And so literally I said,
and now that guy's dead.
Yes, exactly. But he did it, and it's a really remarkable thing. You're standing there, and then a half a second later, you're like, okay, here I go, and you're just down.
Sure.
There's nothing you could do.
Right.
Because the fights were physical. And that was another thing, is like, I wanted to know what that felt like, because I'm going to be asking these guys to get in there and do that. You know, there's a level of physicality. Sometimes they're not getting punched in the face, but Dwayne did get punched towards the end of the movie. He really got punched because I was like, I don't want to cut away. And that's another hard conversation to have.
That I need you to get punched in the face for this thing.
Yes.
But I mean, he committed so hard. I'm sure that wasn't a he
knew he had to. That's what he actually brought up to me. The hard part was reminding him that he said that early on.
Right. And were you working with him in the characterization for him to embody it?
Oh, for sure.
Or was he off on his own, and then he come back and
as I was writing it, I was talking to Dwayne the whole time, and I was also talking to Mark too, because I felt if I'm going to tell this story, I got to get to know Mark. And Dwayne and I at that point had gotten very close, and it really was just like there was this shared experience, you know, which is strange because we have very different, you know, upbringings, but there was something that I really felt connected to with both him and Mark, and I could sense that we all felt the same thing. And so I was like, okay, there's something to explore here. You know, there's a shared, like, human experience that I could get into.
You want me asking, what was that thing?
It's okay. It's.
What do you have in common with The Rock?
Okay. So, yes, it's the fact, and it's actually a little sad. So I know what it feels like to have a kind of deep pain inside of you and have to go out in front of everybody and act like it's not there, you know, but it's always there. And it's something that you know is there, but for the benefit of other people, you're like, and it's also, you're not going to let yourself be defined by that. And that's something that I think Mark Kerr felt, and I felt Dwayne had a relationship to that as well. And it was something that, like, okay, this is something that I want to explore. I want to feel what he feels like. And so that's why with the movie, I felt, let me give you what the life was like. And I'm going to give it to you in all of its realness. And then hopefully you can take the clues from the stuff that happens in his life, Mark's life, and then come to a realization at the end of the movie about life. You know, and that, like, maybe things can be really bad, but you'll be okay. You know, like, life, we're alive, and isn't that great?
Sure.
You know?
And I mean, that's what's interesting about this film. What you just said is that, to me, I mean, on the surface, it looks, even the title, The Smashing Machine, you figure it's going to be a fight movie. Yeah. And it's more like a character movie that happens to be about this guy who fights. Yeah, because like I had done a lot of boxing. I was going to play a boxer in something. And so I said, well, I got to learn how to do that. And so I got into a boxing gym, did sparring, got my ass kicked, and I loved it. You know, so I was, thank you very much. And somebody's like, you want to do it again? I'm like, yes. And there's really no explanation to that. I don't know what it is. Something about it makes you feel alive. Sure. The bad part is forgetting words, you know, but that's one thing. Brain damage is the downside. Yes. Yeah, brain damage is the downside. But I don't even know where I went. I'm going with that. So let's see. So whatever that was. Yeah. But basically, what I realized is I got close to some of these fighters, and I would go and see them fight. Yeah. And what made it so exciting to me was, win or lose, I was connected to the person inside the ring. Yes. So that's what the movie I try to do, is I try to put you in a place of deep connection with Mark, so that when he gets in the ring, you feel the butterflies, or you feel the weight of everything he has outside of it. So you understand this is what it's like to be a fighter. I wanted it to be very truthful in that way. Sure. I mean, it is truthful, and it is super engaging. I mean, I would say almost in a surprising way. Yeah. But what's also cool is that you actually, aesthetically, the movie looks cool. And as someone who, I mean, just not to cast aspersions here, but like, I think the MMA world is sometimes kind of tacky looking. Yeah. You know, like it gets a little, these guys aren't known for their aesthetics a lot. Well, that's the thing is Mark was very aware
of how he wanted to present himself.
Sure.
You know, he got a really expensive suit for his press conference.
Sure.
He wears this sick Nautica yellow sweater.
Yes.
You know?
No, he was streetwear. I'm saying how you shot this movie versus how, like, let's say a certain MMA company.
I know exactly what you mean.
If they were to make this movie,
yes, it would be very different.
It would be very different, and some would say shitty.
Okay. So and to that point, I wanted. So I chose 16 millimeter to shoot this on because aesthetically it has a feeling. Everybody remembers what 2000 feels like. It's a very close time period, but it's actually a long time ago. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to evoke what that feels like. And how do you do that? And it's with sound, it's with music, the songs that are playing on the radio, but it's the way it looks.
Yes.
There's something about the way it looks that I just thought felt right. And I wanted it to look really nice. I wanted it to be lit well. We looked at all these photographs, like Gary Winogrand photographs. Like, it was a very aesthetic thing. So I'm happy you saw that. Sure. And a lot of old documentaries that were made on 16 millimeter, I think just deep down what that does is you watch something that isn't shot on DV or digital, and you think, how did they do that? Because they're walking around with a film camera that only has a certain amount of time in it, and yet they're there and they're editing it, and you think, there's something else happening here. So we took that and we shot it on 16 millimeter, did a bunch of stuff to it to make it look the way it does. Because there's some grain that we wanted to get rid of, because I wanted to be
Snapchat filter, you just put
exactly. Just throw that through and then just like print it out. And then but I wanted the beginning of the movie starts out like a big YouTube video.
Yes.
So we shot it on the cameras that they shot those fights on.
You actually got the.
So then we go from there. So you're watching it on YouTube, and then it hard cuts to 16 millimeter where it's clear but evocative of this kind of dreamscape. And then we also use 65 millimeter for a section of the movie as well. So you go through this journey of resolution, which sounds really exciting.
It is. And it looks great. And the way you talk about film is so exciting. And I don't know if you have any kind of perspective on this idea that kind of American cinema is kind of in a downslope in terms of quality and storytelling and whatever. Like, do you agree with that? Is that just so you do agree?
I don't know.
Because sometimes we have like nostalgia bias. You know?
Yes, that's true.
We tend to think that it was always better back then.
For sure.
And I got to ask a few people from that school of filmmaking, like, was it better back then, or we just, and they said they didn't really feel that way.
Well, I think it's harder because now it's like there's so much out there, and there's so much stuff to watch that it gets overwhelming. And so, what do you do to break through in that? And then you bring in AI and all this stuff, and it gets even more complicated. So to me, it's just about humanity. You have to focus on emotions and human beings because we're here. Like, this is like what's important.
This is actually AI, right?
Is it? Okay, I didn't know. So you can always tell. But I just think that's the thing is like focusing on stories that you can kind of get into. And for this, I really wanted it to be like, really get into the emotional vibe of the whole thing and feel these fights and really just kind of like take it to another level. And that's what movies do, but I wanted to just really make it feel like it was really happening, even though everything is telling you it's not. Right.
Well, hey, I mean, you definitely succeeded in doing that. You make it sound so easy, but, it's about telling stories, but everyone tries to do that, and very few people can accomplish it, and you did with this film. Thanks for making it. Thanks for putting your heart into it. And thanks for